special session is ongoing, and we wanted to get from the speaker's mouth what his expectations are. And there seems to be a difference of opinion, which is part of the process between the Senate and the House of Representatives as to what merits action under these extraordinary circumstances and what does not. With that in mind, we welcome back to the show Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House of the General Assembly of the state of Tennessee. Cameron, hope your Friday's going well. Hope you're keeping cool.
Yeah, it's going well. It's hot, that's for sure.
That's true. And my dumb self, I'm dragging my wife to the Titans game tonight, the hottest one in history. I'll let you know how that goes, Cameron.
Yeah, let me know.
Couldn't be hotter than in the session, though, man. How about that for a transition? I mean, there's a little heat going on in this session. Let me start here because I don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time on it. Cameron, I get it. The regular session devolved back in the spring in a way that you did not care for. Some of your colleagues on the Democrat side of the aisle suggested that you went too far or the body, I should say, went too far in the expulsion of two of the members for their antics on the floor. And so you and the Rules Committee set about trying to resolve that, to give other options to the House of Representatives in terms of violation of the rules. And coupled in that, you set about some rules for the gallery because the gallery got out of hand in the last regular session. So now we have literally a lawsuit against you suggesting that signage should not be permissible. Just walk us through your thought process on all of this and where we are on that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, so when we finished last session, I had the clerk call many states and just say, hey, what's your House rules on decorum and how do you handle disruptions? And so we got a lot of feedback, which a lot of those things are incorporated in the rules, because we had heard that, which is true, we only had censorship and expulsion. And so even the Democrats at the time said, hey, we should have some other options to consider. So we gave them some options. Now they don't want the options. I've heard you talk about that the other day. But as far as on the signage, let's just be clear. It's the same policy that Congress has. Congress doesn't allow you to take signs in their gallery. Congress allows the committees to have the determination if they allow signs or not based on the chairman. Same policy we have. And heck, even the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't allow signs in the Supreme Court. So, all we're doing is kind of following policies of what other people are doing to make sure that we have the case. Now, I will say, it's been a policy of the House since the early 2000s that there's no signs allowed in the gallery. So nothing's changed. It's just we moved it from a policy to a rule. So, people are upset about it, but hey, we'll go fight it out in court.
Well, and I think you'll be victorious because as I noted earlier in the week, in the gallery in the Congress of the United States of America's House of Representatives, as you just confirmed, Cameron, there's a no sign policy there as well. So I don't understand those that are arguing that their First Amendment rights are being violated because the gallery is there to observe, not to comment or make statements on the activities of the various committees or of the whole body, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to you on that since we're in a lawsuit. What I will tell you, too, is Congress, in order to sit in their balcony, you have to get a ticket. We don't even allow you to have to go get a ticket. But
well, that's right.
Congress allows that, too.
All right, where are we in terms of the session? It seems that, the 50,000-foot view, it feels like the Senate has been a lot more structured and limited in what they brought out of committee and what they brought to the floor. The House is considering a few additional bills. Tell me how that works functionally in terms of what we can expect to be passed during the special.
Well, we'll see. The House and Senate are in total disagreement. We spent a lot of time this summer traveling the state, not just me, but other members, working with stakeholders, working with mental health facilities, working with law enforcement, working with DAs, working with different groups out there, as well as working with covenant moms and parents on things that we could do. The House, just to your audience know, just for the record, the House is the only one that defeated the red flag bill. The Senate never defeated it. It's still alive in the Senate. They laid it on the table, but it's still alive. You can get it back off the table. The House, it's dead. It died. It's over. We're the only ones that defeated the red flag bill. Now, outside of that, we have other ideas. We have a mental health crisis. We think there's some things that we should do. We have a juvenile crime problem in our state, especially in the bigger cities. We think we should do and hold juveniles accountable. We have other ideas, the duty to warn. there's a lot of things, that we think we can do. So we're going to pass those things. Unfortunately, the Senate right now wants to be doing nothing. I think Tennesseans are asking for something. I think that's the agreement. I think people understand we have a mental health crisis, a juvenile crisis, a crime crisis in our state. We're prepared to go in and get it done. I don't think that you can wait 12 months to go back and solve some of those issues that the Senate's willing to do nothing on.
Help me understand, and maybe give me the big three or the ones that come to mind when I say, what issues are you talking about when you say there are some that cannot wait until the regular session?
Well, when you talk to Davidson County juvenile crime is the number 2 issue, and Memphis is the number 1 issue. You had 7,600 juvenile crimes in the last year alone that were violent offenses that are Group A. They've had a 15% increase in juvenile violent crime in Memphis in the last year. You've had if you just say there was 1 victim for every crime, which we know there's more than that per crime, that there's 7,600 victims. Now what you're saying is if you're going to wait a whole nother year, now you're going to have another, if it stays flat, which it won't, another 7,600 crimes, another 7,600 victims. I don't think you can wait to address that. We also know in the Covenant shooting that individual was under doctor's care. We have a duty to warn statute that's unclear, that's vague, that doesn't help anybody contact law enforcement if someone's making threats against themselves or to society. We need to clean that up. That would have stopped the Covenant shooter, by and large. We also know that we have a mental health crisis. We don't have enough access. We don't have enough resources. We know that mental health facilities and providers are not being compensated the equivalent of substance abuse treatment. So we're trying to put some money in that. We're trying to protect higher education. We funded K through 12 for safety. We didn't do anything for college campuses, so we want to do that. So there's things in there that we can do right now that would move us in a direction that will allow us to continue to focus on things. Unfortunately, the Senate, getting a tax break on gun safe is great, but it wouldn't have done anything to stop the Covenant shooter.
Well, which of those bills that you mentioned would have?
Well, the duty to warn could have very well, because now it's vague.
I think it's a little unfair for you to point a finger at the Senate and say, well, none of those bills would have stopped the Covenant shooter. Well, none of your bills would have been guaranteed to stop the Covenant shooter either, Cameron.
Well, duty to warn has the best possibility to stop it. If you give law enforcement tools, we have another bill about defining a general mass threat against society is what she's done. That would have been the possibility as well. If we'd had a background database check system that was instantaneous, that could have helped, which we don't have, which the Senate doesn't want to take up. So the thing is, you have 4 to 5 different things that the House is willing to do. 100% guaranteed to stop her. You're probably right.
Wait a minute, I might be vague.
Yes,
I might be mistaken here, but I thought the Senate was taking up codifying the background speed on the background check.
No, all they were wanting to do is codify
the executive order, right?
Executive order. But the problem is you still have all these clerks whose systems are not integrated. You have a system that not all the data gets to the TBI. So what you're doing is putting a parameter on something that the clerks can't achieve because they don't have the software, they don't have the capability, you don't have the access. It doesn't take much to talk to the DAs and the judges who all have different databases, the public defenders, and they tell you how bad the system is that we have. Putting a limit on something and not addressing the underlying issues doesn't solve the problem.
Well, what does it take? Money?
Well, it takes a direction of getting everybody in and having an understanding of this is what we want to achieve. And so right now you have everybody with their own databases. The courts have theirs. You don't have all the courts sending in their crime data, Matt. Think about it. Not all of the counties are even sending their crime data to TBI.
Wait, isn't that currently against the law?
I'm just telling you, they don't send it in.
Well, I know, but my question is, are you suggesting, and I think I might be agreeing with you here, my suggestion is, so do we need to make it more punitive against those systems that are not following the law currently?
We need to hold them accountable, and that's the problem. There's no accountability factor. So let's just say, right, and you're right, there's no accountability for them to send in the data. There's no consequence for them. There's none. And so we have a system, we're going to say, you need to send it in 72 hours. Well, hey, Matt, you know what? I want you to go get a Dunkin' Donuts coffee in 72 hours. You need to do that. And you're going to go, well, what's the penalty if I don't? Well, there's not. Then what's forcing you to do it? Nothing, other than somebody saying you should. And so our background check system should be one of the most important things that we should focus on, and we're not even focusing on it.
I mean, is it smart? And I'm not arguing with you, Cameron. I'm just asking the question. Is it smart policy to do that in a special session with such a speeded up process? Should we not do this during a regular where you can be more deliberative about these points that you're currently making?
We've been discussing the database for 6 years. We've been asking the administrative courts to do it for 10 years. I don't know how much longer we can continue to try to be nice and ask. So why not put the pressure on them? Why not sit there and debate it? We've talked to, I don't know if the Senate has, we've talked to the DAs. We've talked to the clerks. We're in the process of saying, how do we fix this? It's a problem. One thing that we all agree on, if you're a felon or if you've been adjudicated as mentally incompetent and committed and you shouldn't be able to have a gun, it should be in the database. But we have 250,000 pieces of information that's not in there because we don't have anything to hold anybody accountable, and there's no system in place that allows that information to freely flow back and forth.
So I'm looking at quotes here from Randy McNally, from Senator Bo Watson, and others that are saying, we've done everything we're going to do over in the Senate. And I hear you as Speaker of the House of Representatives in the General Assembly for the state of Tennessee, Cameron. I get a sense, you tell me if I'm wrong, that there's some genuine frustration in your voice pointed toward the Senate right now.
I don't know if it's frustration, but look, we have talked to a ton of Tennesseans, business owners, law enforcement, judicial people, average people, Republicans, Democrats, independents. We don't agree on everything. We don't agree that, we should do barring of guns, that we should pass red flags. But what the common theme is, people understand we have a mental health crisis, and we have to do something. We needed to address mental health 10 years ago. People to vaguely say, well, we need to wait till January, or the issue's too complex, or there's not enough here for an emergency that we should do anything. That's just totally wrong. We've known for 3 months, Matt, we have known for 3 months the governor was calling us in. The governor met with every single member over that 3 months to tell them, what do you want to do? How do we want to proceed? People are going to argue that they didn't know what the call was, but they had a good understanding that mental health was going to be part of it. Juvenile crime was going to be part of it. So the issue of them saying it's too complex and we don't have time, they had time to prepare. The House was prepared. The House has done its work. We're prepared to lead our state. We just wish the Senate would do something and not nothing.
Forgive my ignorance on this. What is the bill number on the duty to report bill? Because I would love to read it.
Yeah, I'll get it to you.
Okay, just get it to me. You don't have to...
It's Jason Zachary's bill. I don't have it on me.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I'd like to see it, but because outside, because I'm curious, and once again, I'm not trying to be obtuse here, Cameron, but I was publicly educated in Georgia. You'll have to forgive me. But when you talk about mental health and the mental health crisis, outside of duty to report, what do you think you could get done if the Senate was more willing?
We have an emergency and voluntary commitment statute right now that is not working. 1,600 people went through the first step of having two healthcare providers say that they needed to be committed by emergency and voluntary. They were denied. 1,600 people were denied who should have been committed for observation. That's a problem.
Let me clarify. These were people that were asking for commitment.
No, these are people who were refusing to be committed, but the healthcare people, a couple different people, said that they should have.
I see.
And so 1,600 of them. Now, the other part is we don't have enough beds in our state. Now, I will admit, we can't solve that problem in August. But when you talk to mental health facilities and mental health providers like Peninsula in Knoxville, Tennessee, they are losing tens of millions of dollars a year because TennCare reimbursement does not reimburse them to the same rate as substance abuse treatment and other things. And so they're like, how long can we stay in business? We can't continue to lose money. Now, I'm not saying we solved that in August, but in the appropriation, we put money in the appropriation through the TennCare Reserve Fund. If you're taking care of TennCare patients, we can at least allow you to continue seeing patients, keep the beds open, and not have to make that decision until we go back in. That's that should be common sense to try to do something like that. And so you mentioned the duty to warn. I mean, there's just